On January 22nd, 2003, the world was introduced to the character known as Invincible. He was really not a popular character whatsoever and wouldn't be seen as such till much later on. But how did this smaller hero that the world barely knew turn into this big thing that we know that it is now?
With all the success of The Walking Dead, has there been any offers to adapt Invincible?
Well, I mean, there's been offers, but I haven't liked them. so yeah.
For various media?
Yeah. It's like The Walking Dead. I had to wait for the right team, for the right take, in the right situation. And, when that happens on Invincible, there will be something. But until then, there won't be. I don't think that, it's harder with Invincible just because superheroes are so popular now, which I think sounds weird. But, to a certain extent, a movie studio is going to go, well, like, I'm going to compete with the Avengers with this. Like, that doesn't work. People they're just going to watch the Avengers. Like, why would I do this other thing? So that's a bit of a hurdle. But I think we'll get over that hurdle eventually. I mean, I don't have any aspirations to have a crappy Invincible movie or a mediocre Invincible TV show out there. So, I'm going to wait and make sure that I can prevent that from happening.
Is there, we can maybe even talk about this, but is there a team? Is there, a point of view that you look at from someone who's making, whether it's movies or TV or something out there, or is there a medium that you could see Invincible being translated into successfully? What's your idea?
I think we're quickly. Whatever.
We're almost done.
Yeah, I think we're quickly approaching a time where an Invincible TV show is, possible. I think that the technology is getting to a point where, that could be done, and I think that, that would probably be my ideal medium, just because Invincible is this sprawling, interconnected, story that would adapt to a television show pretty well, I think. Mm-hmm. And I think that if audiences could sit down for an hour once a week and watch buildings collapse and superheroes duke it out in the streets, and all the emotional garbage that's in Invincible as well, but if you could actually see that kind of cool stuff on your television, I think that would be a really, kind of bizarre, unique thing to have. And, that would be the ideal situation. But I think right now the budgets on that would be a little crazy. So
Invincible had a dedicated audience that kept growing as the comic got better and better. And even though it was a small audience, it was still enough to keep the book alive and well. Every time a new plot twist or something insane would happen, it would only get bigger from there, all the way up until the end. On February 14th, 2018, the series had concluded with a total of 144 issues in 15 years. But this wasn't because the book wasn't selling well. This was because Robert wanted the book to end, unlike other comics that just get canceled due to poor sales. So that was that. This had marked the end of the Invincible universe. It was gone. But then something amazing happened. 4 months later, Amazon announced they were going to be making an Invincible show. And nobody really cared. I mean, come on, the MCU was booming, we got Infinity War with Thanos, it was crazy. And then we got Endgame the next year. It seemed like superheroes were on the right track. We knew what to expect. We didn't care about this silly little show with some fun looking character designs and the lighthearted tone. We've seen it before. So let's get forward in time. The MCU fails, and we are tired of their formula in movies and shows no one really asked for. And we seem to be not as invested in superhero media as much anymore. But then there came a show that made the superhero genre change forever. One show that had quickly made an audience. One show that absolutely averted our expectations and changed the superhero game forever. And that show is... The Boys, a massive hit that reinvigorated the superhero genre, an absolute masterclass in storytelling, and it only kept getting better. But this was only the beginning. There was another show that would appear a year or two later, and that show is... You start watching the first episode, you're like, wow, this is exactly what I expected. Okay, I mean, it seems alright, nothing too special, and then you get to... Yeah, that just happened. This was no longer a regular superhero show where you knew what to expect. I mean, he just killed that universe's version of the Justice League, and in such a brutal way. And it doesn't stop there with all of that. But we'll get to all that eventually. Anyway, the series is a hit for Amazon, so a short time later they get picked up for 2 more seasons, and I'm sure there will be much more to come. Anyway, hey guys, it's me, welcome if you haven't heard of me, but my plan for this show is to give a breakdown of every episode of Invincible, giving a deep dive and going through absolutely everything I can about the show, and you even learn about the creator through interviews and his thought process on the show. This is going to be a long journey, and I hope you all enjoy. So let's get right into it. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention there will be no spoilers for the comic book, but I will spoil whatever season I'm breaking down. So you don't have to worry about season 2 spoilers or anything like that, just all of season 1. The whole beginning scene here never happens in the comics, but it does a great job of establishing the Guardians of the Globe as a powerful team that has been doing this for a while. In the comics, they get introduced in issue 7, which is the same issue they get killed off, so we don't get to see them that much, and I'll go over that comic later on in the video. The name Guardians of the Globe is a play on the Guardians of the Galaxy from Marvel, and obviously the Guardians of the Globe are based on the Justice League, Aquarius being Aquaman, Martian Man being Martian Manhunter, War Woman being Wonder Woman, Immortal being the Superman of the team. He could also be based on Vandal Savage and Black Adam, since Omni-Man is pretty much the Superman stand-in. Red Rush being Flash, Green Ghost being Green Lantern, despite having the most different powers, and also he's a guy in the comics. And then you finally have Darkwing, which would be Batman, and he's white in the comics. They are all also played by Walking Dead actors, so Aquarius and Immortal are played by Ross Marquand, who was Aaron. Martian Man is played by Chad Coleman, who is Tyrese. War Woman is played by Lauren Cohan, who is Maggie. Red Rush is played by Michael Kolditz, who was Abraham. Green Ghost is played by Sonequa Martian Green, who was Sasha. And then Darkwing is played by Lenny James, who was Morgan. And then Invincible himself is played by Stephen Yeun, which is Glenn. And if you're wondering why they're all Walking Dead actors, that is because the person who made Invincible also made the Walking Dead comic series, and he was also involved quite a bit in the show too.
I don't have a minute. Mom! My bathroom's out of soap. Get over yourself.
This scene happens, but she never walks in. In the comic, he reads on the toilet here as Science Dog instead of Science Dog, which I'm just assuming they had to use because it cost less money getting the actual license for Science Dog, because Robert Kirkman actually did a 2-issue Science Dog book with Cory Walker, the co-creator of Invincible, which is pretty neat that they made a comic in a comic. Also, it was originally a failed pitch before Invincible, so it's a failed pitch that's succeeded in the Invincible world. Also, Science Dog looks to be a parody of Doctor Strange.
It's like Dad saving the White House. Hello. Guardians are there too.
Again, this scene does happen, but it has completely different context. Omni-Man is fighting a dragon on TV, which we never actually see the fight for.
Oh, I think we built that thing twice a year at this point. If it's not Doc Seismic, it's the Lizard League or someone else.
She talks here about Doc Seismic, which we later see in the season trying to destroy another historical monument, and is a low-level threat in the comics. And then she also says the Lizard League, which are also low-level crooks in the comics. We never see Omni-Man come back home. The scene is completely cut. I wouldn't be kissing my pet like that. That's a bit weird. This scene is cut as well. The school name here is Regent Vell Johnson, which is a reference to the actor, and what's pretty cool is that he actually plays the principal. So that's really neat.
Sure, he's hot and all. And that mustache.
This is funny that he's calling his dad hot. Also, William is never openly gay in the comics till issue number 80, which is pretty crazy. He actually dates Eve for a little bit after Rex and her break up, but they end things fairly quickly.
And you think that makes it okay for you to harass me? I think Amber's been pretty clear about how she feels. Are you serious, Grayson? Leave him alone!
This entire scene is completely changed in the comics. So first off in the comic, Mark already has his powers. He sees a kid getting bullied and he stops it and gets called into the principal's office, and he tells him that basically he shouldn't be doing this because he's going to hurt himself, and says you're not invincible, you know, and that's how he gets his name. Oh yeah, and Amber appears in issue 8 and gives him a number out of nowhere, and they start dating, so pretty much no build up whatsoever.
It's about time.
This Burger Mart scene happens in one panel in the comic, but plays exactly the same besides where the trash hits, which I'll get into later. This scene again pretty much plays the exact same way, but has different context, which I like because they did it so much better. So he flies in just like in the comic, tells him he took care of the dragon, which I was mentioning was on the TV in the beginning of the comic, and this is most likely a reference to the character that summoned a dragon at the end of this season.
Guess who's finally getting his powers?
Are you sure?
Pretty sure. Threw a trash bag into space at work.
Oh, that's great. Son, just great.
In the comic, his dad has completely no reaction. We don't really hear anything much about it. But in the show, I like how we see his reaction toward it more. That "Are you sure" line was excellent to add just to show more intensity and to show something is clearly up with this man.
This is going to be a little awkward for both of us. You may have noticed that I'm not like normal dads.
This whole scene of him remembering his dad telling him all this is pretty much the same dialogue, just changed up a bit. But it has the same meaning. And they also sit on a couch instead of telling him on the roof.
Millions of miles from here, out in deep space, is the planet Viltrum. It's a cool blue oasis alone in solar system, much like our own. I was born on this planet. Viltrumites are very similar to humans, except they can fly, move at super speed, and possess great strength. When our people come of age, we leave Viltrum and venture out into the galaxy, using our abilities to help lesser developed worlds. I volunteered to relocate to Earth and be its sole protector. That's when I met your mother. I know this is a lot to take in at one time, but you're half Viltrumite, son, and you're getting older. Things are going to start to change for you in a few years as you hit puberty. You're going to get acne, your voice will start to crack as it begins to change, you'll begin to grow hair in strange places, and you're going to start to develop superpowers of your own. Just like me. Super strength and speed, flight, the whole bit. You understand?
I'm gonna be able to fly?
There's also a backstory behind this Canada shirt, and I'll let Robert tell a story about it.
So, the Canada shirt. A lot of people ask about the Canada shirt. I don't think I've ever talked about it publicly. We went to Toronto on a vacation, and my son, who was younger at the time, I'm going to say 13, I don't remember, and he went to a gift shop, and they had that red shirt that just said Canada across the front of it. And he thought it was hilarious that there was a shirt that just said Canada and had nothing else on it. And so for a good 2.5 year period, my son wore nothing but Canada shirts. And so Corey Walker, who's, you know, Uncle Corey to my kids, dear family friend, co-creator of Invincible, when he designed young Mark, he put my son's Canada shirt on Mark. So that is the reason for the Canada shirt. So that's a fun Easter egg that only my family likes. The entire Canadian animation team on season 1 thinks that it is a reference to them. It is not.
When he flies here, it's taken from the first issue with very similar dialogue, but the flying scene lasts 1 page. We never see Mark struggle how to fly. He is just good at it from the beginning in the comics.
Fly up because I can fly. What if I can't? No. Okay, Dad always said it was like a reflex, so if I don't want to fall, I won't. And even if I do, maybe it won't even hurt. Or maybe... No, screw it.
This flying scene of the show was also the first thing that was storyboarded for production on the show. This scene never happens. We don't see him waking up or him teaching him how to fly. Again, he is just good at it from the beginning, so I like how they go more in depth on things in the show. It shows more of what you can do through TV, because in the comics, you are so much more limited to what you can put in there compared to the shows where you have more space to flesh out things. Mark is also just good at fighting. We don't really see the struggle of him learning how to fight, so I definitely enjoy that aspect in the show too.
Did you maybe push too far?
Are you questioning me?
What the hell has gotten into you?
Again, this scene never happens between Nolan and Debbie here, and I like how we see him change. He brings out more of his Viltrumite side, which wasn't too explored in the comics. The twist kind of comes out of nowhere. There are hints here and there, but not like this where it shows how it's affecting the people in his life.
Anything else?
This whole scene here happens in 3 comic pages, and Invincible again does an amazing job in the comic book. We don't see him struggle whatsoever.
I'm strong enough, and I can do this. It's all I ever wanted for as long as I can remember. I want to do what you do. I want to be just like you.
You will be, son. You will.
This scene with Omni-Man is completely skipped over because comic Invincible is just great with his powers, but I like this scene because it just shows how much Invincible idolizes his father, and I love that. And it's also just a really nice father and son moment. It actually touches on my heartstrings a little bit.
Mark and Nolan's relationship changes and evolves just over the course of this episode. I mean, there's an excitement and a hesitancy from Nolan as he sees his son entering this world.
Guess who's finally getting his powers?
Are you sure?
Through a trash bag into space.
Oh, that's great. Son, just great.
He's excited about showing him the ropes and bringing him up to speed and trying to train him.
Use the momentum you're building to carry you forward.
Mark is also overly enthusiastic to be entering this world, and you get to see different shades of that relationship through these scenes where the be careful what you wish for moment is, you know, when Nolan hauls off and punches Mark. There's a darkness to that. There's a real shift in what it is his expectations are.
Try it a little more like this.
Like what?
Nolan's trying to shock him into recognizing that this isn't all fun and games and you can be excited about your powers, but there's a real danger to what it is that you're experiencing here.
Why did you do that?
Mark, no one is going to pull their punches.
And so we're trying to portray all different shades of this new world that Mark is entering.
They still do end up going to the tailor shop after this, and it plays pretty similar. But again, it has better context than the comic. I feel like you guys probably think I hate the comic or something. That is far from the truth. I love it. It's just they tend to make changes that were so great in the show, and it gives so much more meaning behind everything.
What do you think? Well, I don't know about the orange and yellow.
The suit he shows here actually has something they don't say in the show. It has those little disc things, and those are the little solar batteries. And that's because Art had assumed his dad's powers were solar based. So it's obviously a reference to Superman since he gets his power from the sun. Future Crispy here. Robert Kirkman actually was going to make his power solar based when he designed the suit. He also said Mark would have an invisible aura around him that altered the density of stuff to make him able to fly and be super strong and stuff. But he didn't end up doing that. And also Invisible's costume that he first wears here is Bulletproof's costume. And we'll see him later on. on. What I think is interesting with his design is that it is a failed Invincible design, so this was going to be his first costume. Luckily that didn't happen, and then Bulletproof was also going to be his original name, but it got changed due to Image, the company that publishes the comics, was publishing Bulletproof Monk, and they thought it would conflict with that comic and would be all confusing. So again, it was luckily we even had the name Invincible. But I do like that they took the failed design in the name and gave it to another hero. Last thing is, when Invincible was called Bulletproof, Omni-Man was called Supra-Man. I am so glad they didn't go with this. Obviously, they didn't go with this because it sounds very similar to Superman, and Image did not like that. There also should be some concept art of the character on screen, and it has an S on his chest, and he's even wearing undies. It just does not look good at all.
That's what everyone wants. Iconic. A symbol. Something kids will draw on the margins of the notebooks while they daydream about being as cool as you. It's also tough as hell to pull off.
I love this line because, yeah, he is completely right. Think about how many great superheroes haven't gotten the spotlight just because their suit wasn't iconic. That must suck ass. I can't imagine how just like hard it is drawing a comic character and just saying that suit is ass.
You don't have to be the greatest Omni-Man ever. You just have to be the greatest you. But what if the greatest me isn't enough? Mark, you stupid boy. How could the greatest you not be enough? Thank you. I love my boring, powerless, everyday run-of-the-mill mom. And I love my asshole son.
He never had this conversation with his mom because he again does not have trouble flying, and I do love this conversation because we showed the family bond that they have, just like he had with his father. I love that. I wish we saw more of that in other superhero media.
You're just gonna keep prying if I'm evasive and also, I'm scared, Dad. What if I can't do this?
Were you nervous? A little? But you caught it.
I did.
Being a superhero is no different. This is the beginning of a long journey for you and me. Along the way, you're going to need to do things you don't want to do, or might not think you can do. It's okay to be scared. It's natural to doubt yourself.
This scene is from issue number 6, and again, exact same scene, different context. They talk about him going into the Flaxen dimension in the comics, but in this scene, it shows what you have to become to be a superhero and how much of a journey it will be. And we also see how cool the ball going through the earth is with animation.
Son, kids your age think they're invincible, and it holds them back and makes them careless. The thing is, you're different. You actually are invincible.
This is also a better way to get his name. He gets his name from his dad instead of his principal, and it has more meaning than him stopping a bully. This shows who he is and who he's going to be as a person.
So much of following superheroes is about the origin. How did this guy become a superhero? And you've got that sort of story in the opening part of Invincible, where the son, Mark Grayson, is sort of slowly gaining his powers from his father. Why are origin stories so important in superheroes?
Well, I think that, origin stories are very prevalent and are kind of the core aspect of most superhero stories. I think it's because, we're producing unreal worlds with, characters that have unreal abilities. And so you want to ground things and you want to give things a reason for being. And you want to kind of ease people into this world by showing them, hey, this is an everyman and he's, a normal, everyday lawyer, but he got hit by this truck and it blinded him and he got hit by toxic waste and it gave him these crazy abilities. But I think that because the origin story is such a tried and true trope of superhero stories with Invincible, we tried to bypass it by just going, his dad is a superhero. Like that's Invincible's origin. His dad is a superhero. He inherited his powers. But
still watching him learn how to use those powers is like the cool part.
I guess so. Yeah. I mean, there's certainly a little bit of that, but there's not like a big grandiose, like he went to a lab and this person, radioactive Invincible bit him on the hand and he went home and, started slowly developing these powers. I think it also gives us a shorthand in that the scenes where where Invincible's father is showing him how to be a superhero might as well be scenes of our parents teaching us how to drive.
100%.
So you get like a very relatable scene out of this because, we've all been there. We've all had a frustrated parent yelling at us as we drive into a mailbox. And so we can relate. Or is that just me? I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
No, totally.
I hit very many mailboxes on my way. But yeah, it just makes things more relatable.
Yeah, I mean, the one scene when they were suspended in space and having a baseball catch was just the coolest because I'm a huge baseball fan. So to see that, that was that humanistic, what you were just talking about a parent just teaching a kid to do the most mundane things, Well,
thank you. Yeah, no, that's great. And I love that it in that compact little scene, it does actually kind of show you the world that we're in because this is a father and son, playing catch, having a great time talking, but they're back to back and throwing the ball around the circumference of the earth, which is stupid. And can't happen. It's totally weird. But in this world of superheroes is like a cool little thing. Like, oh, look at that. Like they're totally throwing a baseball around the world. It just shows that, this show has heart and it has like the depth of these, characters that are, dealing with these relationships. But there's like this little aspect of fun and weirdness to the superhero world that I think makes things a little bit more entertaining.
Got it.
Okay, kid, let's get to work.
This scene never happens. He has his costume as soon as he gets his name. This amazing scene of him flying in this absolute beast of a song that I can't play isn't in the comics because, again, another benefit of having things move is just the fluidity that you can achieve with a show like this, and it's just fantastic. Kill Cannon here is just one of the many bad guys in the Invincible universe, obviously just a low threat, and he will be one of those reappearing villains throughout the show, just like in the comics. Love the fight scenes in the show. Every punch just feels powerful, and the environments actually feel like they matter. It's just some really great action. Then obviously we have the beautiful title card, which will keep getting blood on it as the series progresses. This whole final scene is an adaptation of issue 7. It has the introduction of the characters and them getting killed off, but there are some changes here. So we have Olga here with Red Rush, and he goes off to apprehend Kursk, which is basically this universe's version of Electro, and we actually see him join forces with Machine Head's gang in the episode 5, but the Red Rush scene plays out pretty much the same. He just does a couple extra things, and Olga doesn't have such a big reaction to him leaving to go do that. She just brushes it off. We have Immortal here fighting Biplane, which is basically this universe's version of the Vulture, and he also says he has cancer just like the Vulture, and that's actually why he tries to blow himself up and the city. So it's different here. He just kind of tries to blow himself up and take out the city, but it ends up in the same result anyway. Aquarius has the exact same scene as in the comic.
Finally, some action!
War Woman's thing is completely different. She is a businesswoman, which is also said in the comic, but we just instantly see her with her girlfriend, and bad guys attack, and then she gets called away. For Martian Man and the Green Ghost, they have completely different stuff going on. We see them together fighting something and get called away, but in this episode, we see Martian Man with this child that might be homeless, and him just being, I guess, a mentor figure of some such to this kid, and then Green Ghost is a female in the show that is a photographer. Darkwing's thing is pretty much the same, just executed a bit differently. He never leaves the guys there, and he actually calls the cops on them.
Everything about the first episode of Invincible is there to kind of lull you into a false sense of security. There's some cool action here, but it's mostly played for fun. There's not a lot of overt graphic violence because the superheroes are here and they can fix things. And then when you get to that final moment and the Guardians are in that base and there's the attack from Nolan, that's when I want people to be like, oh, I had no idea what to expect here. There is some danger to this world and the stakes are very real. This isn't like anything I've ever seen in a superhero story before. It is the most overt, insane sequence of graphic violence in anything I've ever done, and I did The Walking Dead. It's meant to leave you with a sense of, I have no idea what to expect from this show. But I think once you see the entirety of that first episode, it gives you a sense of kind of what you're in for. Even though we're still going to be able to throw some curveballs your way over the course of this series.
Then the hugest change to this fight is that Omni-Man takes him out in 2 comic pages and he's completely uninjured. It's super quick and done. And this is one of my favorite fights in the whole show. Just the brutality of everything and how you can see he is not holding back. Every strike and blow feels powerful. I also like that because of Red Rush's fast reflexes, he was able to sense them before it came. That makes sense because he was literally just talking about it, and I love how he gets his ass beat, but he's still taking it, and he just messes them up. It's just some fantastic action. I just love it. This twist in the comic was going to happen much later than issue 7. They had planned to do it in issue 25, but the book wasn't going to make it that long. So Jim Valentino, one of the Image founders, was like, don't wait till issue 25, do your twist next issue. And so the Guardians getting killed earlier really settled at hook point for the comic series and the show itself, and I like that.
I mean, it's full of what I consider to be homages to really, look, you exist in a world of Marvel and DC, which has kind of shaped all of us in the comic book world. Certainly it shaped me. And it's pretty difficult to not look at a character and say, hey, doesn't that remind you of, or that's not quite,
Sure.
Darkwing. Isn't that is that what I think it is? So I assume this was all obviously intentional.
Yeah, I mean, especially in the case of the Guardians of the Globe. The Guardians of the Globe are an analog of Justice League, the same way Squadron Supreme is, or the Seven and the Boys. There's a one-to-one comparison. That's our Aquaman guy. That's our Wonder Woman. That's our Batman. That's our Superman. I like to think that, the Immortal being our Superman, he's a fairly unique take on Superman. He's not from another planet. He's not an alien. He's an ageless guy. He used to be Abraham Lincoln. Like, there's a lot of elements to him that are original. And that's by design because I knew we'd be bringing the Immortal back. Other characters like Red Rush, Aquarius, War Woman, we were killing them almost immediately after they were introduced.
True.
So, we were using the analog as like a shorthand to make the audience identify with those characters. So, if you're killing an Aquaman guy, it's almost like you're killing Aquaman. So you kind of get the feeling of, oh, that was their Aquaman and he's dead. This is crazy. Like they killed that guy. Like, holy crap. It gives the characters like an air of importance without you having to spend 20 issues like building them up. So we did that from time to time. Every now and then though, there are things where it's like people will be like, Monster Girl is like an analog of the Hulk, and it's like, no, I disagree.
Yes, well,
maybe the skin's green and they turn into a big thing, but the character's completely different. Come on.
Yeah, no, but that's also now that's a really imaginative character, a little girl that turns into a really gigantic monster when she needs to. You got some great characters.
And I see the similarities to the Hulk. I'm not blind, but that wasn't the intention. It's like one of those things where we're sitting around, we're like, shouldn't have colored that character green, but
There's some really cool concept art of each Guardian member, and here's what Robert had to say in the back of the first trade paperback. He says, I know that on the surface the Guardians of the Globe look like a JLA parody, but well, that's what they were always supposed to be. I mean, I have 18 pages to introduce them all and make readers care about them before I killed them. Using archetypes is the best way to do that. What I'm getting at is that after everything was said and done, I really fell in love with a few of them and wish they weren't dead. Case in point, the Immortal. I love this guy. He just looks so dang cool. I kind of like Darkwing too. I'm glad Corey didn't put the wings on his head. Talk about stupid design. There's a little bit of Green Ghost action on this page too, but then the rest gets cut off for this section and he says something for Red Rush and Aquarius. Man, oh man. Dave Johnson really kicked butt on this Aquarius page. Here's some sketches from issue 7. I was really worried that the kill scenes in issue 7 would piss people off, up to the point the book had been pretty much all ages. I wanted the scenes to be graphic so they would stand out, and then when the page came in from Corey, well, it was graphic. Good stuff all around. Corey draws organs pretty well. Biplane. Oh, biplane. So cool, so ridiculous.
In the comic book, for the ending of 101, it was extremely shocking, and it was 2 pages, which is nothing. And when I got my hands on it, as supervising director, I thought it should be more. It needs more. And that's like a great example of how we're fleshing out. Like this one scene, this small sequence in the comic. It's now this huge, horrible action sequence that you don't want to happen, but it's happening right before your eyes. And so we see the Guardians, shocked out of their mind that this is Omni-Man.
Someone must be controlling him. He would never do this.
Regardless, it's him or us.
I choose us.
I hope that the audience who don't know the comic book are shocked and intrigued like crazy to wonder why the hell Omni-Man is doing this. And I hope the fans of the comic are shocked as well. Like, this isn't how it went down. Oh my God, this is amazing. It needed to be horrible and horrific and shocking.
Why?
And I think we really did a great job on that.
Everyone on this team bringing this series to life loves this series as much as the fans love this series, and we're all working together to do this cool thing that everybody can love.
We had 8 directors working, our character designer, storyboard artists. We've got our editorial team, prop designers, background artists. The amount of work that we all put out is freaking astronomical, and it feels really special to be with this comic this whole time, follow it all the way through to its end, and now be able to bring it to life again in a bigger way.
This episode is a fantastic start to the series. I'll give it a 10 out of 10. What's not to say about this episode? It avoids superhero tropes, like killing this universe's version of the Justice League immediately. We are shown so much about Mark and how he idolizes his dad and loves his mom. He is a good human being at heart. He attempts to stop a school bully, and even though he sucks at flying and fighting, we learn with him on how to be a superhero and the troubles that come with that. I like that we are shown little signs of Omni-Man changing, just the slightest things that we never get to see in the comic. That's also the thing too, we are shown so much more here than we were in the comic. It adds such a layer of depth that wasn't present before. The action was fantastic, especially the end. Like I was saying, the characters all feel so lively. Mark, Debbie, Nolan, William, the Guardians, Art, They're all just so great. I'm going to do this segment in each video showing what issues they use because I find it interesting. So here are the issues that inspired this episode. So we have issue number 1, issue number 2, issue number 6, issue number 7, and issue number 8. And you can also kind of count issue number 80, but not really because all that was revealed was William was gay. But you can kind of count it if you want, I guess. Guys, that's the end of the video. If you like what you saw here, I would heavily recommend that you subscribe and leave a thumbs up. I'd really appreciate it. Let's keep growing and keep on this journey, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.